In today's video, guys, we're going to be discussing and installing the new quick drain shower system. All right, now check this out. This is a pre-sloped pan and it is foam, but you know what? This foam is so rigid, it's like wood. Okay, you can drive screws in this thing. It's absolutely incredible. So I'm over here at my trailer and I've got a code issue problem. I can't move the plumbing, okay? So that has to stay here. And so when I was at the trade show back in February, I ran into the company. They had the engineers there. We had a nice long conversation, talked about their product, their engineering. They've got a system design for everybody out there who wants to avoid getting a building permit and avoid hiring a plumber. You can install this quick drain system right in your shower, no matter what the configuration is, no matter where the plumbing is, doesn't matter what the size is, okay? This system is adaptable for any situation. And that makes this a new DIY best friend because, check this out. I can put in my drain right up against the wall, right? Isn't that going to be something? Now, this and this don't have to align. We can move the plumbing to get there. We did it earlier series where I built the subfloor intentionally, right? So that it's a double layer and it's reinforced to carry the weight so I can go right over top of this thing. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I got the helmet cam on today because we want to be able to show you all the little nicks and little tight detail shots so that you have right information so that we can get a phone call. Okay guys, here we go. Step one, of course, is to do the plumbing, just to make sure that we can get all this cut and engaged properly. The secret here is to know this is the same diameter pipe as a 2-inch pipe. So you need a bushing because you're going to make an adjustment from a 2-inch to 1.5 if that's your problem. If you already have a 2-inch drain, you're going to just go straight there with 2-inch pipe and fittings. But I'm going to convert down to 1.5 here. That's lovely. And I'm going to use a 90, a short 90 right out of the floor. Now, generally speaking, with drains, you want to have like nice sweeping 90s, okay, the long curve, but in this scenario, it's actually allowed. Not sure. I think it's just because some rules are just stupid and meant to be broken. And we're going to just cut this off with a reciprocator. We'll cut it from 2 different directions so that it's nice and low to the ground because the secret here is to keep this fitting no higher off the ground than this fitting, okay? And right now I'm a little high, so I either have to trim this down a little bit more. Yep, I do. All right, that's all right. We'll just keep doing this until we get her where we need it. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, now you'll see I'm having an angle issue because I'm going to go straight up against the wood. That way my tile and everything is going to cover the grate. It'll give me a really nice finish. The finish grate that goes on here is customizable, okay? And they send it to you like that on purpose in case your shower is shorter or wider. You can actually add on sections to the drain, which is amazing, all right? Now, we're just going to start right up against the wood. I've got to get this pipe to here. That's my new height. I got a 45 and a 22.5 because I wasn't sure how my angle was going to work here. Looks like they both suck at making that work. How in the world am I going to get that to get there? Jeffrey. That will get the job done, but it moves it over here. That's not what we're looking for. Okay. Problem. What is the solution? See, originally when I was planning the shower out, I was going to have the drain way back here. But the kit that arrived didn't have enough slope to put 2 pieces on each side moving to the middle. So now I'm stuck trying to figure this out over on this end. When you're on a project and you got a problem like this, you can't always just, order more parts. It can take weeks to get deliveries, and that just holds you all up. I gotta find a way to make this pipe somewhat flexible. You know what? I think my problem is these are the same bloody fitting. I did it again. I reached from the 45 and the 22.5 and I didn't confirm before I left the store. I don't have a 22.5. I only have the 45. Right out of the gate. I'm just getting started and I already got to go shopping. Okay. That's fine. I'm gonna have to go shopping. It's my mistake. I screwed up. I got two of the same fittings instead of the different ones. This is why I couldn't figure out what's going on here. This one of these should work. Anyway, I'm gonna go get the right fitting and I will be right back. I'm stupid. Okay, so I got the right fitting now, finally. It's a 22.5. This is gonna work. I'm just adjusting my rough. That'll work, okay? So what I want to do is I want to put this fitting as tight as I can here because it turns as early as possible. And it's almost perfect because I'm going to visualize how I want this to work, because that is square, but it's opened up. So I'm going to rotate so that this is square and then it's facing down just a touch. I'm going to put a black mark on there so I know where it lines up when I assemble. All right, so I want a 1-inch piece of PVC for here, because it's ½ an inch inside of each fitting. And then it looks like 3 inches would be perfect for the inside of that one. So we're gonna dry fit this sucker first. Okay. And yes, it all goes together. So now that we've dry fit it and we know it's gonna work, we're going to connect all of these components with the adhesive. All right, this is a $2 more than the other kind of glue, but you don't have to buy the primer. This is cement that's designed for ABS to PVC. And it also bonds PVC to PVC, obviously. So, we do all the easy ones first, right? Here we go. You always want to glue your fitting and your pipe. Here we go. Here's my black mark. Just join those up right there. And then we'll do this fitting and this pipe. There we go. Plumbing 101. And we set this back in place on my joint where we're going to want it. Come on. Right there. And we're going to let that dry for a little bit. We're going to start installing the base, setting it in thin set, cutting it in, and then we'll start at the back and work our way over here. When we get here, that'll be dry. There's no adhesive or no solvent on this joint. Okay, so we'll lift this all out of place once it's nice and rock hard. That'll give us the ability to set this in and do the buildup around the pipe. Okay, you'll see that in a minute. And that's really the versatility of a product like this. We're going to put in a buildup layer so that we're putting our slope pan on top of the plumbing in the buildup layer. All right, first thing we got to do is make sure this is nice and clean and dry. I made a mess. We can't add thin set on dirt and dust, so grab my vacuum and we'll clean that up. I didn't see Jeff vacuum. Okay, so I am using a 1/4 by 3/8 trowel, all right? Very standard in the industry for setting materials. We're troweling it onto the floor and onto the material, okay? For this particular situation, for the following reason, this is a structural component, and my floor, as you can tell, is a complete mishmash of different building materials, and there's some holes in it, and it's just a mess. So by going with that level of adhesion on the back, I'm going to provide myself a structural component that relocates weight distribution to areas that are strong. This particular material is crazy strong though, all right? So here's the deal. We're going to measure just a hair shy, make a mark, and I'm going to cut out of this area so I don't have to vacuum in here 100 times a day. This is my first time using this material. This is my first time cutting this stuff, so I've got a few different tools. We're going to start out with a knife. Oh yeah, it'll work. You're going to want a few passes. Oh. I'm close. Let's see if it breaks nice. Ooh. Nope. You really want to cut all the way through. Okay, there we go. Well, that doesn't make much of a mess either. That's pretty awesome. Now, no thin set on these joints, the puzzle piece joint here. Okay, we're just gonna, again, we're gonna back butter this bad boy with some grooves, not just a little bit of thin set, but actual contact. Here we go. We're gonna collapse those ridges, and that'll be our base for the bench. Whew, we have to build our bench while we're here. The secret to the system is that we don't have to worry about waterproofing or taping joints or anything until we go to waterproof. There's an incredible number of shower systems out there that waterproof at different stages of construction, and they're not acceptable by the Tile Council of North America. So when you're thinking about waterproofing, you want the last layer you do to be the waterproofing layer. Everything else up to this point is just still building the shower, okay? So the waterproofing will be another video. That's after I get everything built. This is considered building, not waterproofing. So what I want you to do is don't think about this as being a foam product. Think of it as being wood, okay? This is our building material. We're gonna build a bench like as if we were using, well, let's call it a 2x16, right? And we cut it with a knife. That makes it a lot of fun. All right, so I got to thinking while I was doing the install, you know, to treat this like wood, let's do a test, because I know you see me driving screws and you're like, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of doubters out there, okay? Now look at this, didn't come through the other side, okay? I'm not screwed to the plywood, all right? I can't lift that out. Even if I lift, can't lift that out. I can pull it out this way, like a lever. But I'm telling you right now, this sucker holds a screw. That's impressive. Okay, I'm just gonna get my measurement here. 13 inches is the depth. So our bench is gonna end up being 17 inches high, which is the comfort height, toilet height, or chair height, which is really good. So we're just gonna cut this in 13 segments, and then we're gonna build 4 standalone blocks, and then we can set a weight on top of that. Let's just get this done. Man, I almost want to use a skill saw to cut this. I think I'm gonna try it. I mean, it acts so much like wood. Why don't we just treat it like wood? Try using the saw. This will be fun. Okay, so I drew on my mark where the 13 is. I actually want my blade to be just beside it, so I'm going to follow this black mark on my table and cut next to that black mark. Like a hot knife through butter. The only problem is I didn't have the blade set deep enough. No, that's all right. That works amazing. Okay, I'm gonna just make 4 of these right here before I go back. This is a structural component. Boom, okay? It's no different than using a couple of screws when you're building your lumber. All right? Okay, I'm just gonna lay it in and then lay it on. This is about overkill, and then you can squeeze it all together at the end. We don't want to squeeze too hard in the beginning though, because we want to have the ability to level this all. Okay. Now, considering thinking like wood, one of these every 16 inches is plenty strong enough to carry a bench, all right? This is where it's going to get fun. Because to set this bench properly, I am going to use a couple of screws. thin set is for the longevity of the scenario. Okay, the screws are going to be to hold it in place while everything is setting up. All right, and there we go. This has never been seen before, ladies and gentlemen. There's enough strength in that screw to actually sink the head. Isn't that fun? This will just blow your mind because this gives you all kinds of options as far as being creative when you're building now. All right? Like, what else can you say about this? This is just so much fun. I'm gonna throw one in the bottom here just to hold. Come on, if this isn't blowing your mind right now, there's something seriously wrong with you. Okay. For the top of the bench, we've already got this cut. Maybe a little bit too perfect. All right, but it's got an overhang issue. And I'm not tiling with a huge overhang, and I don't want to wrap tile, so I want to get this perfectly cut. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trace from underneath. There we go. Nobody gets that shot. I'm going to take this back out to the saw, and this is exactly the material line, right? I'm going to cut it about a 1/4 inch behind. And that 1/4 inch gap, I'm going to leave it up against the back wall. That's right, because I can still put on my waterproofing system even if there's a gap. And that gives me the ability to make my edge up front perfect, because that's where the problem you're going to run in with tiling something comes from. It's up at these outside corners. So, okay, here we go. Let's do a dry fit just so that we can all see that this is perfect. See, this is perfect right here. Whenever you're doing anything with water, you gotta have slope. So your benches have to have slope, right? Everything you do has to have slope. You got a choice. You can either cut in the slope or you can thin set in the slope, okay? And by doing that, I mean by doing that. Really just goober the living daylights out of this thing. Okay, this is called wet shimming. All right, we just put a little bit on the front, enough to make a bond, and we layer it up in the back so that we have to actually press the bench into position. And because this foam is so rigid, I'm feeling confident enough to treat it like wood. And that is a game changer for this industry. And yeah, about this time you're like, where am I going to get this product from? I'm telling you, it's brand new on the market. We'll have links in the video description for you. Okay, now watch. As soon as you put it on a slope, there's a gap. It's not straight, so you got to push the front back. That's where that gap comes in handy, okay? So this point is flush with the rest of this wall. So when you're installing your tile, it's not coming out and out, okay? That's perfect. That's perfect. And while it's perfect, you bet, let's drive in a couple of screws to make sure it stays perfect. Right in the face of that panel. Now I'm just setting this as a wet shim, okay? Here we go. I'm gonna grab my level now, double check the slope on the back. Here we are. Now, my left side is low, then the right side, and I don't want that. I don't want water going there and then coming out if I can avoid that. So, we're just gonna go like that. There we are. There, that's much better. And do I still have slope to the front? That's the $1,000,000 question. And the answer is, to fix that, I just have a 1 degree. Perfect. As long as you got a 1 degree to the front, the water is all going to be diverted this way. Your waterproofing system will never be overtaxed, okay? Remember, every waterproofing system on the market has got one thing in common. They're all based on chemistry, okay? None of them are based on physics. They're all based on chemistry. Whenever there's chemistry, there's the opportunity for human error, right? So you want to have a system when you're building that's dealing with physics as much as possible so that you're not relying on your chemistry to the nth degree. That's why we always add slope. That's why we make things structural. Use physics whenever you can. And then to waterproof, you've got to rely on chemistry. So the bench is built. Now we're going to put in the build-up for the rest of this floor. And then we're going to finish installing our plumbing and setting the drain base. That's going to be awesome. I got a series of boards here that are different lengths, okay, that we're going to use for this. And that's not going to be deep enough, but that'll incorporate with my other piece just fine. So I'm just going to work with that. Make a notch here, right? And then that's basically cut out. So let's just check it out this way. Where's my point here? I got to clear this. And then I get to about here where the angle changes. Okay, so I'm going to go cut that. And then, yeah, I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to trace that, and then I'm going to cut this the same. Okay? And then I can come in from the other piece and then mark the end and cut that again. That should be easy enough to do. Cheers. Now this particular cut doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Because we can always use thin set and backfill around that PVC to get what we're looking for. Wow. I gotta go to full depth. This is 2-inch material. Awesome. There's the one. There's the other. And can I just be honest with you, everybody in the audience here? When I first got this product, it came in 3 boxes. And there's so many parts. I'm just like, it's like assembling a puzzle. But all I did is I set up the material in a larger space. And I just kind of did a dry run with the material without the confinement of the space, just to get familiar with the product first. But now I've got it in my brain that these are all just, it's like wood. It's just like 2x10s and plywood. That's really all this is. This is just, it's just, man, it just changes everything. It makes it so much simpler to understand. Okay, I've also got to get a curb installed here. And I know I'm not quite finished with all of my stuff as far as my cement board and everything else, but I'm gonna cut that at 49¼ because I have to make room for cement board over here, and I gotta have room for thin set, but I'm gonna do that on the way out. But I gotta work end from the beginning because I got 2 different heights of plywood here. I gotta make sure I get this right. I only get 1 shot at this sucker. Okay, let's get this cut first. We'll visualize and then we'll trace that cut. I got so excited, I got ahead of myself, I think. All right. Now I'm going to go back, set this in place, and trace my proper line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up where it goes. That's where it goes. It's not about that plywood at all. Okay. Perfect. That'll work. Sorry, I just had to visualize where my next step was going to be before I continued on. And I was right. The curb's not the issue. I've got to cut this inside this plywood layer here. All right, I'm going to just then set this in now. All right, let's get this out of the way now. Draw a quick line. So we can put all this in the right spot. There we go. You know, the funny thing is if you're thinking about doing a system like this, if you were to buy, let's say, I'll pick on Schluter for a minute. You buy a Schluter system, and you buy that big pan. And if you make any mistakes at all, it's garbage. Like, you cut that one too short, you're in trouble. Now the membrane system has been compromised. And that's a problem. So, what I'm going to suggest is, this system has some advantages, and we need to look at, because our waterproofing layer goes on last. Which means you get to cut and make mistakes and fix them all day long if it's necessary. Because really, your only goal is to make sure that the end product is perfect, And you can cut and screw this back together again over and over and over again if necessary. Like, think about it. The ability to fix your mistakes while you're working with a weird product that you've never seen before makes this a game changer. Having the membrane attached to the pan has its advantages in perfect conditions. But if you're working in an old house or in imperfect conditions, having the flexibility to build your own custom shower without the use of mud beds, they're a bloody nightmare. Because those drain systems that come with those, mud pack beds that you build, it's a PVC liner that comes back up to the drain. So any water that ever gets past your waterproofing or your tile gets trapped in the base forever. It can never drain. That's why they always stink forever and ever and ever. Okay, so that's done now. That's awesome. Let's get the next component out here. Because of the nature of what's going on here, we know how this works, right? This actually sits right in that little groove, okay? Now, the way that I'm installing my drain, and this is how you can personalize it, is right up against the wall, okay? So, the first cut we're gonna make with this product, with my skill saw, hello, is right there. And I'm gonna cut all of this backer off, okay? The second cut, because I'm going right up to the wall, is gonna be to cut right here as well. Okay, so that'll be gone, all right? Right? And then my curb, here we go, visualizing, goes right up against this track over here, and that's only a 1/4 inch. That's my 1/2 inch because I have to add wallboard here. I need about I'm going to call an extra 1/4 of an inch here, okay? On that side. So I'm going to keep this plus a 1/4 inch. That's an aggressive 1/4. There we go. And I'm going to cut this off. And because of the nature of this drain, I'm going to make these cuts first and then bring it over, and then I'll set it on top, and I'll line out that, I'll trough out the front part of this area here as well, so that everything can be embedded. That's the beautiful thing about this, man. Just think of it like wood. Blows my mind. This is just awesome to have this much precision going on. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the depth of my blade so it's exactly the thickness that I'm cutting. And I'll do it right on top of the plywood because I'm going to be cutting the back of this one off. I'm like a kid in a candy store today. I got into it and I'm just like, wait a second. How flippin' awesome is that? Okay, how am I gonna, because I'm going underneath here. How am I gonna, oh, I'm gonna do it here. Okay, I go from right to left. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay. All right, so this part of the build out is only affected right here. So I'm gonna measure from my curb position to this pipe, 16, 18 and a half. Okay, and because it gets wider, I'm gonna go wider. I'm just gonna cut these out, and then we'll fill it all with thin set like it never even happened. Loving it. Okay, now we need to get rid of this here. There's not a lot of this build-out kit left, but we're gonna set every part of this into thin set to ensure. Okay, see? So now that's just dry fitting it. Here goes my drain. Everything is right into the groove here. Nice. That's my plumbing. There we go, we're dry fit. This is gonna work like a charm. Now the only thing I'm gonna have to do here is I've got to cut another piece of this material to create a buildup underneath my curb, so the curb is higher up to accommodate the slope, or it'll end up sticking up higher than the curb. And I hate when you get to that point where the floor is right at the same height as the curb. You never get a good looking finish, and you don't get a good seal with your silicone. So leave yourself room to work, all right? The height of the curb is less important, okay? We can go all the way up here for all I care. It's not gonna matter. But let's focus on this, getting this all installed now. And then we can work on filling in the body of the floor and putting in the slope. Not gonna be a concern. And I'm gonna need more thin set for all that, but that's okay. All right. I'm gonna just set this material where it needs to be set. Okay. Need some on that side. And I haven't mentioned that yet, but whenever you're working as a homeowner on these projects and you're not sure what product to use in these environments, just go and get the Schluter systems all set. That is a modified cement that can be used in areas where you need non-modified cement as well. Okay? It'll guarantee you don't have to be worried about understanding the science of all the things you're building. You can just use the right thin set the first time and never have a concern with it. Okay, so that's that. So first we set this in place. I'm gonna make sure that's all the way in the corner where it goes. Get the solvent well done here. All right, and we'll set that in and set that on. Whew. There we go, guys. We officially have, and we'll clean this out, okay? Because we don't want to have that in there. Like I was saying, we can clean out the rest of this pail and fill up that void, just because we're going to want to have none of this old cement in here when I go to make the new batch. That's close enough. I'm going to go mix up another batch, and then we can put the rest of these panels and the slope in, and then we're going to let this set up overnight. Okay, and then we'll show you do the waterproofing. How to build the shower is one video. How to waterproof is another video altogether. But let's just finish building this before we get too far ahead of ourselves. This is a groove channel, and it connects to the next panel. Let's not let the thin set build up inside of there. Okay, quick batch. We'll be right back. Having this here is actually a really good guide for me. So I'm just gonna cut this base now and install it. My width is 31, and my width here is 32. Okay? So 31 and then 32. And that change happens at approximately 9.5. Okay. 31, 32. So we're just going to use this as a straight edge. Okay, 9.5. All right, life is just that simple. Here's an interesting situation. My subfloor for the bathroom extends into my shower area just a bit here in a different elevation. And so this part of this is going to be in the way. So that's a 1/2 inch subfloor. Oh, that is some nails on the chalkboard type sound, eh? Oh, it was so nice when I used a saw. Oh. Problem solved. That is ridiculously awesome. Okay. Just like every other component. We'll put a nice bead on here as well. Just to make sure that we get good bond. Whenever you work with thin set, it's a little messy. Little experience. You can stop making a mess. Suckers. Substantial. It's got a couple of pounds to it. All that thin set in there. Okay, up and under. There we go. Perfect base. Now, we need 34.5 and 32 and 2.5. 34.5, 32, 2.5. 34.5. And that was for 2.5. Done and done. Okay. The other thing that's amazing about this product, and I'm just thinking about it now, there's no top or bottom. So if you're measuring and tracing and you've measured from the wrong place and you end up cutting underneath, you just flip it over and use it. It just eliminates all the risk of all those potential problems. This product is going to open up a whole another segment of our DIY community to feel comfortable doing their own bathrooms. Because of the versatility, if you make a mistake, it's not going to cost you money. It's just going to cost you a bit of time. And that is amazing. Oh, and don't worry, in the comments section, I know you're all freaking out. Oh my God, he hasn't even finished putting the cement board on yet. It's okay. This is all just part of the building process. There's no right or wrong way to what finishes first. I'm just leaving it for now because I wanted to have the flexibility for that drain if I needed it. And it turns out I did. Am I gonna get all the way over? Yes. That's my bottom side. You see I'm rubbing it off and then I'm combing it out. That helps keep things pretty darn clean. Rub it off on the panel. Okay, but then you can comb it and keep control of the excess material. It's just not landing all over yourself and the floor. All right. I didn't even check to see if I cut that the right length. Uh-oh. Nope, I went long. That's all right. Yep, I got that subfloor to deal with too. Okay, this is gonna get messy. That's why we couldn't pound it down. First of all, this is a 1/2 inch too long. And the base leaves room for the. Try that again. And we're about 1 inch over. There we go. Just throw it back in place now. Okay. There we go. Good solid bond on that. All right. Okay. Continue to keep an eye on my line. This one is 34.5, 13.25, 13.125. I'm gonna go 13 and then 13.25, 34.5. We'll consider that one square and we'll cut the wedge over on that side. I'm looking at there and there, kind of going in there like that. I'm coming out Not that far. There we go. Similar to wood. Not exactly the same. Similar. Let's just dry fit this and confirm it. That's gonna work just fine. Okay, once again, we just gotta make room for that plywood. That far out. Okay. Okay. All right. 3 more pieces and we're done the system here. Oh, but I gotta build that still. Okay, maybe I lied. We'll see. All right. First, yeah, so just like when you're dealing with wood, when you're installing more than one layer of something, you want to make sure you're alternating your joint pattern. So that's why I went with the 17-inch board straight up into the shower, and now we're going to go the other direction. What we have to do here, is install this into that groove, okay, and then have this groove facing up. So we have to actually measure from the front of this, which is this edge, to our adjustment on the wall here. 31 1/4. It's a little tight. We'll give ourselves a little more space than that. 31 1/4. There we go. We'll go to 1/8. And that is going to come out. We're going to go to 2-inch. Okay. And now I got to get the measurement from that back bench area to this lead corner. And that's 50 1/2. Perfect. So I'm going to measure 50 3/8 because I don't want to be fighting with it trying to force it in. If you have to force it in, something's popping up and something's not going to be engaged in that thin set. Always, always, always incorporate room for error, because you're better to have a little gap than too tight. If it's a perfect fit, it might be too tight, and then you're bending the foam in and you have hollow spots. That causes deflection, which is going to end up causing your tile to crack and ultimately getting water underneath your tile, which, even if it's waterproof, is no fun, right? Too much water underneath there, it starts to just wear things out and eat away at the systems. It starts to stink. I've also got this issue, don't I? We're going to dry fit. Okay, so that all looks nice. And then I come to here and then I have my problem. I've still got to work around that. That's where it turns here. Okay. So as long as I've got pipe sitting higher than my buildup, I've still got to cut around this. And that's fine. We're going to backfill all of this void with more thin set. It's not going to become an issue, right? Like cement to cement to cement. All right. I'm just going to go and take the skill saw and cut that out. And then we'll install the first piece. That's going to be perfect. I'm loving it. Okay, we're going to disengage that. That joint is so good, it's scary. Huh? I'm just going to use up the last of my thin set here. Okay. Gonna have some leaning involved with this one, eh? Now I'm really confident in the amount of thin set that was used in the first layer and how level I got that surface. So I'm just going to back butter this surface instead of throwing a huge groove on there. I'm trying to be mindful of how tall I make the shower floor as well. So once that base layer is on, we should be pretty comfortable just doing the back butter. Now that all those different building materials and everything else have been accounted for. There we go. Let's flip that in. Okay. Whew. There we go. All right, here we go. And I do not have enough cement. I think what I'm gonna do at this point is I'm gonna clean my pail out and go have a lunch break. I'll finish this up in a minute. Well, before we get too excited, that fits there. Yeah, we're gonna have issues here dealing with the pipe. Yeah. Let's just take this saw out and give it a see if that's enough. Nope, it's not enough. I gotta get some of that too. What's going on here is that pipe is extruding. It's coming about this far over, okay? And it's coming up right near the top, from here to here, right? So the easiest way for me to deal with this, instead of trying to carve the backside out, I think that was just silly. I'm just gonna cut it right out and then backfill it up with thin set because, you know, you don't want to be all day with this stuff, right? The advantage of having a system where the waterproofing goes on last. What is the holdup here? There we go. So this is where my pan is now. That shouldn't have any problem going down. Let's find out again. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. I'm making just a hair bit of contact here. Okay, so the little bit of contact is causing enough resistance that this board is so rigid that that little bit of contact is enough resistance to keep it from going in. I don't want resistance to go in, I want it just to drop in there. Why is that? Why don't I go in? Understand this, understand this. Let's go here. There's nothing else in the way. So one more time. I got a touch point right there on that corner. Right there on that corner, yeah. Okay. On this corner, right here. That's it. You know, most other foam products on the market, you could just give it a couple of love taps and then it would just collapse underneath that impact, but not this stuff. It's very exact and very strong. There you go. Now I'm just sitting down with a finger. Okay, now I'm happy with that. I'm ready to roll. You know, the other thing about having you add your membrane after the fact, you might want to consider, these tools, they're sharp. And if that was a finished membrane and I was doing some troweling and I caught an edge and I punctured the membrane, you're no longer waterproof. So just consider when you're working, every one of these details can be a contributing factor to failure. There we go. Need some back butter on it. This last little bit looks like it's gonna be a real pain in the butt, eh? I have a third piece of slope, and it's only about 6 inches long. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut it exactly where I want it. 1 3/4, 1 3/4. Perfect. And I'm gonna cut another piece of curb to elevate this up, so I'm up here. Because look at how, you see how close to flush I am back here? That's flush, and that's gonna be lousy. I don't have any ability to put a tile on here and then transition to a sill plate. So I want another 1.5 inches, okay? I like 1.5 inches, that's what this is, that's a nice gap. So I'm gonna take some leftover material and cut some pieces that are exactly 2.5 inches wide, build up my curb. Lovely. All right. I need 1 3/4, right? So I just set my guard, 1 3/4 is right there. My fingers there, and away we go. Yeah. That is absolutely bizarre. I don't have the length. Forgot that measurement. Where'd the rest of it go? I'm missing the other piece. Oh, crap. Hang on just a second. Kind of done a wet shim technique here, pretty much. There we go. Yes, put the locking joint in the right direction. That would be helpful. Okay. That was a big mistake. I measured from the wrong end, and I didn't cut the thick end off. I have to recut that. I don't know how to measure now. Somebody doesn't know how to measure. I did not do something right. I might have measured something upside down backwards, I think. This is starting to really piss me off. Okay, let's get a little bit of product in here. We're gonna wet shim it here. And a little bit on the inside too. Just has something to bond to that other piece because it's so tiny. Just can't seem to hurt to do that a little bit. Okay, here we go. Now that's the right height. All right, now I need a piece that was, or pieces that are 49 inches by 2.5. Ugh. Yeah, it's always messy when you're starting to do stuff like this, eh? That's okay. Messy is not a problem as long as it's contained. There we go. And boom. All right, now, outside waterproofing joint there. An important part of the element here is to screw this into the other material. As you can see, I'm going into a piece of 1 inch and then into almost nothing. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to screw this on a bit of an angle so that I hit the 2-inch filler Okay, so I'm going to go underneath this pan into that filler underneath. There we go. Leave that flush. That's acceptable. It's not perfect, but it's acceptable. I'll make that curb perfect with a little bit of thin set. Give everything just enough love to make that happen. Okay, there we go. Now the next stage, obviously, is to put on the membrane, but we can't do that, or at least I won't do that until everything is set up. I'm not in that much of a hurry when I'm doing a project like this that I gotta rush through. I know some contractors are, but we don't need a project that rushes through to completion. We need a product that is going to give us a perfect result, right? Because that's the goal. And let's face it, as a homeowner, doing something like this for the first time, you're not going to be Speedy Gonzales anyway. There's always plenty other things to do on the project. You don't have to worry about the time it takes for you to complete something. Rushing through it so you can get another couple of hours in at the end of the day. That's not really on the radar for most homeowners. So backfilling now, making sure that all of my surface is nice and flat. Any of the groove here that's been exposed, or the pipe, it's all flat and perfect. This is just going to facilitate a really nice installation of the membrane, which is coming up right next. I'm pleased with that. Yeah. We have the beginning of a shower. Yay, a shower.